كتاب الله لا شيء سواه يهذبنا العمل به. كتاب الله لا شيء سواه يهذبنا. هذا القرآن يوحدنا لطريق الخير يوجهنا. الله تعالى أنزله ورسول الله معلمنا. رسول الله معلمنا.
Good evening, brothers and sisters. Welcome here tonight, and we apologize for the late delay, I would say. And I guess Brother Garry Miller does not need much introduction because he's been here a couple of times before. So we'll cut it short to just let the lecture go on, and I give you Brother Garry. Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. What I had in mind was to just take one other approach to the kind of material that I tried to discuss in many places and under many different circumstances. And one way of presenting Islam is to present it, and we're following the example of set out in the Qur'an, to present it as though it was a legal case, that is to establish Islam as though we were both in the position of being under prosecution, so we defend ourselves, and to prosecute our case. As we're told, in particular, the one ayah is talking about a discussion with people of the book, but the principle is sound, that we are supposed to present Islam according to the best means, and it is it's different from second to second. I don't know what if you can hear me, I'll turn it off, because it's very distracting, I'm sure. Okay, can you manage like that? Can you hear me all right? All right. One reason why court systems are set up as they are set up is because people have in mind that we're going to arrive at the truth because we have eliminated all of the things that would lead us in the wrong direction. We have a legal proceeding because we present evidence and we discuss it and judge it according to its value, and everybody has to keep quiet until each side has presented his case. So if we can imitate that proceeding and talk about Islam in that way, this could be possibly the best way of giving the explanation. You see, if you can keep it down, thank you. I appreciate it. It's not necessary to get the maximum volume out of it. Just sufficient volume will be enough. Now, there are some things but we can take it from a position, first of all, as being on the defensive. That is, when people question the Muslim, what is your defense? Imagine yourself on the witness stand and somebody is prosecuting his case. You have to defend yourself. There are a number of things that will be directed toward you that you have to be equipped to respond to. One of these is what I call the cheap arguments. That is, there are things that are said about Muslims which are cheap in that sensible people deserve better. When people say things about Islam which they've been saying for hundreds of years, they've been answered also for hundreds of years, and still they say them, these are cheap arguments. That is, a worthy man knows better, he wouldn't use them. But some people still use them. So that's one category of things that you have to meet by way of defense, to point out to people that argument is cheap because you've had your answer for hundreds of years and still you use it. There's many examples of this. Maybe I mention one or the other here, but and come back to it later. But there are many, many cases of this. In fact, I have often had it happen where people ask a question about Islam, and they want to know, do you have the answer? They ask me, to which I've told them, you'll find the answer to that question in the same place you found the question. They found it in some old book. They found it possibly in tafsir. That is a tactic some people use. They research Islam till they find some point they think most Muslims don't know, and then they challenge them with that, hoping they don't know the answer. You see, it doesn't seem to matter to them that there is an answer. They're in possession of that. Somebody only told me a few days ago when I was in the UK about a missionary who had gone to India, and he asked a question, and no one in the community could answer. He was challenging the Muslims. No one could answer until a man came from a neighboring community. He gave the answer to that question. The missionary left. He went to East Africa. He started asking the same question again. The Muslims there didn't know the answer. They started writing letters, and as it happened, a letter, they were asking people about this matter, a letter found its way back to this village where the missionary had been before. A group of people got together and they sent the man who answered him to East Africa. He approached the man then one day when he was offering this challenge to the Muslims, and as soon as the missionary recognized him, that was the end of the discussion, he left that country. So you see, there are people who don't care if you have the answer. What they care about is causing a problem. That's what I mean by cheap arguments. An example of that is, as recently as last November, when somebody handed in a question to me. As it happens, he's a Copt from Sudan who is paid by a missionary group, the Fellowship of Faith in Toronto, to come and cause problems. He suggested that in the Qur'an, Maryam, the mother of Isa, is confused with Miriam, the sister of Harun. As the Bible tells us, Harun, Musa, and Miriam were a family, brothers and a sister. And in the Qur'an it talks about Maryam as being a sister of Aaron, Harun. That's an argument that's 14 centuries old. Muslims have pointed out for 14 centuries that there's many explanations for this, one of which is that when you use the expression in Arabic, you can be talking about someone as part of a family, not literally a sister, anyone who comes from that family line. Well, that's been said for many centuries, but people would still insist, some do, they say, no, it's literal. Somebody made a mistake. You mixed up two people that lived hundreds of years apart, Maryam and Miriam. Well, if they were really honest about that kind of thing, they'd have to face what they have on their own hands. In the Bible, Luke chapter 1, verse 5, it talks about the mother of Yahya, Elizabeth, and it says she was a daughter of Aaron. If you point that out to the missionary, he'll tell you, no, when we say daughter, we mean a member of the family. We don't mean really a daughter. But when you say sister, you mean really a sister. That's what I mean by a cheap argument. It doesn't matter that that has been replied to satisfactorily for hundreds of years. It keeps showing up in books. So some people don't care of the accuracy of things. They have a case that they're after. There are another type of thing that you may be prosecuted with. There are poorly thought out arguments. That is, they are things people say, but they haven't thought about the finish of what they have started. That is, for an example, of people who have often said to me, the problem with you Muslims is you don't know God. To which I always have to ask them, well, what do you mean, know God? You know God? How do you know Him? To which they will say, well, once God became a man, that's how we know Him. He walked among us. So I always ask them, did you meet Him? They'll tell you no, but we have a book that reports everything He said and did, so we know Him. To which I have always pointed out, well, I've read the same book several times. If this is God, I know Him as well as you. I've read the same words you read. No. I don't mean I know God, I mean I know God. It becomes something He can't tell me now. When you ask Him, what do you mean you know Him? He tells you that's the knowledge. He'll quote you a verse from one of Paul's letters that says, this is the knowledge that surpasses all understanding. So I can't even put it into words for you. I mean, I know God. It's not know like the dictionary says know, like I met Him or I read about Him. I know Him in here. I can't tell you about it. So, again, we're following the Quranic principle, which occurs in so many places, that reduces to this, or an aspect of it reduces to this, that people can say what they like, but they should be made to say what they mean when they say it. Don't just say it, what do you mean? Or finish what you said,